I think purpose is becoming more and more relevant. I think that the issue, though, being that I saw this nice reference from the WFA that said, "Is purpose putting lipstick on a pig?" And I think most of the time, I think it's not. Most brands don't really get it right these days. I think that's probably the issue. So I don't think purpose has had its day, but I think brands are just not getting it right. I think they're rushing into kind of the purpose revolution of sorts and being too quick. I think I often talk about how I often see purpose as a sort of two-headed purpose monster. So on the one side you have profit, 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 and the other side you have purpose. And I think for brands really to get this right, they need to align those two things, and that I think is just so difficult. And I think even if you look at a company like Unilever, that is probably still kind of the poster child of any purpose discussion, I do think that they are on their way to kind of get those two things better aligned. But I think for a lot of organizations, they don't get that right. And the way I look at purpose is it's very much based on a very kind of strong sustainability foundation. So I might be a little bit different from a lot of the traditional advertising guys in that sense, because I do believe that purpose needs to be kind of built from within. So it needs to be built on a kind of strong, solid foundation that's built on pledges and it's built on action. And that's tough work. And I think a lot of brands don't get that right. And I think most of the time it's because we as an industry are stuck with short-termism. It's about sales, it's about the next quarter results. And purpose is a long, tough, directional pull in a different direction. It's a kind of leading star. So I think that's why, especially agencies and CMOs that only sit in the seat for that brand for a couple of years, have so much difficulties in getting this right. So I think if we as an industry has to build these, and I think it's an exciting opportunity to build brands that are relevant, that connects with people, that has a positive contribution to society, we've got to change the way that we work as an industry. So what makes a successful purpose strategy? I think it's really about getting that foundation right. I think it's really looking at your brand and your organization from to take a very kind of honest look at your organization and look at the good and the bad stuff that's happening. And I think that is for a lot of brands that's difficult and challenging thing to do. To look at your businesses, what are the negative impacts that you have. So I think getting the right foundation is pivotal to success, and I think the other thing I talked about, the two-headed purpose monster, getting the profit and the purpose side aligned is super difficult. So I think those two are very important, and then I think the third point is really that I think purpose is evolving in the sense that if you look at most brands today, if you look at let's take the beer brands, I'm from Copenhagen, so Carlsberg, and of course a brand like Carlsberg can look back at its heritage and its founder, but you got so many other brands that can do that, Budweiser, Heineken. So what does really kind of connect with consumers from that perspective, when everybody got the heritage, when everybody's talking, when you got beer brands talking about that purpose and heritage. And I think the real pivot these days is really the brands that do understand that this is really not about necessarily just their purpose, but really aligning with my purpose. So what is it that you as an organization can do for me? What is it you can enable me to do? And I think that is the kind of the exciting thing that's happening right now is for those organizations who get it right and who is value driven, but really for them to understand how do you actually connect with you and me around that kind of shared purpose. And I think that's the tough things to solve. What brands are getting right? I think everybody talks about Unilever, and I think Unilever got something interesting going for it in the sense that they've been good at getting their portfolio right in terms of kind of churning some of those brands around and aligning that profit and purpose. But I do think the real challenge actually comes from that. From kind of the bottom-up approach. I think all these exciting new startups, I think those are the ones that get it right, because it's not like an afterthought. I think sometimes what happens with some of these big organizations is that it seems like an afterthought. When I meet some of these social and environmental entrepreneurs that start exciting businesses, they are on purpose. I mean, they create a fashion business because they are fed up with the way that fast fashion is going, and that's what drives their ambition and the vision, and that's what they can connect with quite easily with consumers. And I think that's probably where I see a lot of the exciting stuff going on right now. I mean, one of the organizations I often talk about is Wheelies. So it's a Swedish coffee bike chain. And it was started by a young Swedish girl. I think she was 23 when she started a business called Marie de la Croix, and she actually wanted to work for Starbucks and believed in Howard Schultz, one cup of coffee at a time and doing the whole community thing and their purpose, but didn't get a job at Starbucks. She got blue hair, so apparently, race is fine, blue hair not so much. But so she didn't get that job, but that was good. So she set out to start this coffee business, organic coffee bicycle business, and her spiel is really going up against these big businesses and these big coffee chains and creating something that everybody can be part of. So rather than a big franchise like Starbucks, it's actually like a micro franchise. So if you're passionate about coffee, you can kind of be part of the Wheelies revolution, and you can start your own little coffee bicycle thing. And I think that's quite fascinating because of two things. First of all, if it's my business and I feel I'm part of this community, I'm quite sure that when I wake up in the morning, I'll feel the purpose and the passion when I go to work. And if you go there and buy my coffee, it's my business. I'll be giving you the best, probably the best service you can get. And I mean, where would you feel the biggest sense of purpose? When you go into a Starbucks and you buy the coffee off whatever's behind, whoever's behind the counter and probably checking out the Instagram account while they're working there, or when it's my own, again, coffee business. So I think that's where I see a lot of stuff happening, and I think that is where, especially the younger generations, why they're so critical towards some of this purpose talk, is that I think they look at purpose in a different way. I think they look at purpose in a much more person-to-person way, because you have these big faceless organizations, these big kind of behemoths of multinationals, and it's difficult to kind of sense that same sort of nerve and excitement and vision that you can when you go down and you meet some of these new exciting entrepreneurs that's doing this exciting stuff.